Wait a second, look at that ring on your finger. Or maybe the one you're hoping to get. What if I told you that its value, the entire worth of that diamond, is a bubble? An artificial bubble built on the most successful marketing campaign the world has ever seen. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest deceptions in modern history. This story isn't about love. It's about greed, absolute monopoly power, and a single global consortium that controlled every diamond mine on the planet to turn an ordinary stone into the ultimate symbol of luxury. Our contract is simple. By the time you finish this video, you will never look at a diamond the same way again. So, why do you think diamonds are so expensive? Is it because they're rare? Nope. Not even close. We're going to expose every step, every lie, orchestrated by the one company that made the stone more valuable than gold. It all starts with one man and one simple, genius idea. The story begins in the late 19th century in South Africa. An English adventurer arrives in Kimberley and sees a sea of miners digging up diamonds like crazy. He quickly realized the problem wasn't finding diamonds. The problem was that there were too many of them. His name was Cecil Rhodes, and his strategy was to control, not the ground, but the market. His plan had two steps. First, the merger. He started buying up the shares of all the small, competing mining companies that were driving prices down. He took on his biggest rivals, and after a fierce battle, he formed the De Beers Consolidated Mines. Second, control. By 1888, De Beers controlled nearly 90% of the world's entire diamond production. He had a monopoly on the supply, but was controlling the mines enough? Not at all. To prevent this monopoly from collapsing under the weight of its own diamonds, Rhodes and his successors would establish the most brilliant and insidious distribution system in history. De Beers was pulling the diamonds out of the ground, but the only way to control the price was to control not just the production, but also the sale. This led to the creation of the Central Selling Organization, or CSO, in the 1930s. The genius of this move was to ensure that diamonds from all over the world, even from mines De Beers didn't own, entered the market through only one door, and that door was the CSO in London. The CSO operated on three unbreakable rules. Rule 1. Supply control. The CSO stockpiled billions of dollars worth of diamonds. If too many diamonds hit the market, they'd lock the vaults. If prices threatened to fall, they would buy up the excess and stockpile it. This made diamonds seem artificially scarce, even when mountains of them were sitting in a London basement. Rule 2. Uniform distribution, also known as the site. A few times a year, a select group of buyers were invited to London. There, De Beers officials would present them with a box of diamonds. There was no negotiation, no auction. You got one box, at one price, which brings us to Rule 3. The take-it-all of it. Rule buyers had zero choice. They either accepted the entire box, with all the diamonds inside, at the price De Beers dictated, or they were blacklisted, potentially forever, banned from buying from the only supplier in town. It was corporate blackmail on a global scale. Thanks to this system, no matter how many new mines were discovered, no matter how many diamonds were unearthed, the price never fell. For decades, it only went up. De Beers had solved the supply problem, but now they faced an even bigger challenge. Demand. How do you convince the world that they absolutely need this shiny little stone? This is where the story moves from business to psychology. This is where history's greatest marketing move comes into play. The task given to the advertising agency hired by De Beers was simple. Teach society that a diamond is not a luxury, but a necessity, a fundamental part of love and marriage. And they did it with just 4 words. In 1938, De Beers hired the NWA ad agency in the United States. At the time, giving a diamond engagement ring was not a widespread tradition. Most people couldn't afford it and didn't see the point. The agency's strategy was to stop selling a stone and start selling an idea. The legendary slogan, written by a young copywriter named Francis Scarcity in 1947, was "A diamond is forever." These 4 words were pure genius. They linked the diamond's physical hardness and permanence to the eternal nature of love. A diamond wasn't just a rock, it was a promise, an everlasting commitment you could wear on your finger. To cement this idea, They gave diamonds to Hollywood stars to wear in movies and at public events. They sent speakers to high schools to talk to young women about the importance of diamond engagement rings. They placed articles in magazines and newspapers that reinforced the idea that a diamond was the only acceptable way to get engaged. It became a tradition by invention. And then they created the salary rule through subtle advertising. They planted the idea that a man should spend at least 2 months' salary on an engagement ring. This rule had no historical or economic basis whatsoever. It was a number pulled out of thin air by a marketing team to tell consumers exactly how much they should be spending. The result? Over the next 4 decades, De Beers diamond sales in the United States skyrocketed by over 400%. The campaign was so successful it was exported to countries like Japan, where the tradition never existed. The diamond was no longer a luxury. It was a social and moral obligation. But in the 21st century, a new threat emerged. A threat that could shatter the entire illusion. Today, in a laboratory, we can create diamonds that are chemically, physically, and visually identical to natural diamonds. How did the old monopoly react to this new technology? First, they denied it. Then, te foc, Italiano. And finally, they joined it. Lab-grown diamonds destroyed the entire myth of rarity that De Beers spent a century building, because now the supply is potentially infinite. At first, the diamond cartel declared lab-grown diamonds fake, synthetic, and not real. They launched campaigns to protect the magic of natural, mined diamonds. But as consumers started embracing the ethical and financial benefits of lab-grown stones, De Beers made a shocking pivot. They launched their own lab-grown diamond brand, but they used a clever strategy. They sold their lab diamonds for a fraction of the price of their natural ones, positioning them not as luxury items for engagements, but as cheap, fun fashion accessories. They tried to devalue the very product they were now selling, to protect the premium price of their mined diamonds. And here's the final financial truth they don't want you to think about. Despite all the marketing, diamonds are a terrible investment. The moment you walk out of the jewelry store, your diamond loses over 50% of its retail value. There is no real resale market for the average person, because jewelers would much rather sell you a new diamond at full price from their supplier. The very same cartel. So what's the final lesson here? Diamonds are beautiful. They are shiny, and they are hard. But their incredible monetary value comes not from nature, but from a century of masterful market manipulation and psychological advertising. It's a story that shows us how the price and status of anything can be created, not by its rarity, but by a monopoly and an emotional story orchestrated by a few very clever people. It's a beautiful, brilliant, and perhaps the greatest marketing deception in modern history. Thank you so much for watching. If this video made you think, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that change the way you see the world. See you next time.